Have you ever wondered if famous people or celebrities have ever used these cameras back in the day when they were brand new? Well, this specific model was used by Michael Jackson back in 1993, and it's just about as weird as he is. Hey there, welcome back to my camera collection. In today's video, we're going to be checking out the Sony CCD-SC5. We'll look at some of the specs on this camera, then we'll go around and look at the physical features on it. I'll give some opinions on it, and at the end of the video, we will look at some of the video footage that comes out of it. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. So yes, this is the Sony CCD-SC5. There's some video footage out there of Michael Jackson using this, kind of recording himself in the mirror. There might be some other stuff that he's used it for as well. So yeah, this camera came out in 1993, I believe. There are a few different variations of this camera, but looking at it, you might notice that it looks kind of like a picture camera. I don't think you can take pictures with it, but it does look like something you would take pictures with. And it's just a really goofy looking little camcorder. It records to video 8 or 8mm cassette tapes. It doesn't do any form of high 8 or digital 8, it's just video 8. And it's honestly pretty basic, to say the least. So if you were to film short play on this guy, you would get 2 hours of record time, and if you recorded in long play, you would get 4 hours of record time. So quite a bit of time you would get on one tape for one tape. And if you wanted to rewind the tape all the way to the beginning or fast forward it all the way to the end, if you're at the end or at the beginning, it would take about 8 minutes to fully rewind or fully fast forward the whole tape. It does have a single CCD sensor in it. I'm not exactly sure how much pixels and all that it creates. I couldn't find much specifications online. I just found like the user manual online and looked at pretty much whatever I could find in there that made sense to everybody out there. And it doesn't have a digital viewfinder, it has a optical viewfinder. It's very similar to like the 90s style little point and shoot picture cameras, and then you'd go to like Walgreens or whatever and develop the video footage, develop your pictures that way. Those kind of weird little cameras that were kind of rectangular and you'd hold it up to your face and take pictures that way. My grandma, when I was a kid, always took pictures of me with those cameras. And she used those things all the time. But that's what this little guy kind of reminds me of, except you would think that it would be this way instead of upright like this. I don't know, kind of weird. And this thing has a dual lens system, and we'll get to that when we go around the physical features on it. But there's pretty much not really a power zoom on it, if you will. And you're only able to do auto white balance on it. So you're not able to adjust the white balance for indoor or outdoor manually. It just automatically does white balance for you. And the minimum illumination on this little guy is 5 lux or f-stop 2.0. That sounds like a version. And it is nice that it has it, but to me doesn't really make any sense. It has a external mic plug-in along with a DC out to power the mic. That's great that it has it, but there's nowhere to mount a mic on it, so you would have to put it on some form of a filming handle or use a wired mic like you would talk to, like holding to your mouth, and then you know how like sports interviews are, kind of like that. It's the only thing that I would really see that would make sense. Now, I couldn't find the original price online, so I asked ChatGPT to see if it knew, and I'm not sure if it's correct, but I'll just put it in here anyway. It says that this camera originally came out in 1989. It says that it was $2,000 when it first came out. Now, to me, that sounds a little bit steep, but it seems like camcorders back in the day really were like pretty expensive, so that's probably not very far off. But for 1993, I don't think it was exactly $2,000. I think it was probably $1,500, maybe $1,700, something like that. But nowadays you can pick these up on eBay for like 50 bucks. So they've definitely lost their value over time, that's for sure. So those are some of the specs that I could find online through the user manual in the specifications section of it. Not a lot there, but also I don't think this thing really has much capabilities to it anyway. I would like to know how many pixels it creates through the sensor though. That would be nice. and how many pixels the screen has. So let's go around and check out the physical features on it, shall we? We'll start off at the lens. Looking at the lens, it looks like it's a 12mm lens diameter on it. Now, there are no lens threads on this, so you wouldn't be able to attach a wide angle or a fisheye or anything like that. Not like you would probably want to anyway, but it's a really small lens that's on here. To the left of the lens itself though is the Optical Viewfinder. And you do have I think it's a stereo microphone. You know, I'm gonna go out on a whim and say that it's not a stereo. I think it's a mono microphone on it. It does have these little loops that you can put. When I got this camera, it had like a wrist strap you'd put your hand through, and then when you were recording, you didn't have to worry about, you know, dropping it because it was around your wrist. But the thing was like decaying and rotting and all that, so I just took it off and tossed it in the garbage. Like, it was just really gross. If you do get this camera or find one online, a regular like DSLR style lanyard will work perfectly for it. And I kind of recommend doing that just because there's not really a hand strap or anything for you to hold the camera. That way, if you do let go or if it slips out of your hand or something, it won't go anywhere because you'll have the lanyard on. It took me a little while to figure it out, but there's this little rubber piece right here, and I thought it was just part of the camera because there's another one on the back of the camera, which I don't think comes out. You can pop it open, and it has some plugins here. So you have your audio video out, the little yellow one there, and then you have your headphone jack to monitor your audio, along with your DC out and your external mic plugin. It's a very hidden little compartment, if I do say so myself. You wouldn't think that there would be anything under there, but when I first got it, I was sitting there going, does this thing not even have an AV out anywhere on it? And so I just kind of started pulling on these little rubber things, and sure enough, it was under this front one here. Super goofy, super weird. There's another door that's here, and you can pop it open, and that's all of your playback functions. So you have your play, your rewind, fast forward, stop, and then you can play with your LCD brightness along with the counter reset and display on and off button. So that's what's under that little door. Along with that, there is a little wheel here, and that is your volume for playback on your big speaker you have here on the back. Another thing that's cool that this thing came with is it has a lens hood for the screen itself. You can actually, there's this little groove right here, you can get your finger in there and pop it up, and the whole thing just springs out and opens up. It shields the sun away from the viewfinder, so that way you can actually see what's going on outside. When I first played with it and opened it up, man, it freaking sprung out. It actually scared me. But you can take it off as well if you want. But I do want to say it's I don't know, it could be a 3-inch screen on it, but maybe like a 2.5, 2.75 maybe. Also on the back, you have an infrared sensor for a remote. Another thing that's cool, and this actually kind of reminds me of the newer mirrorless Sony cameras that are out there. Because like Canon, the screen opens up to the left and then swivels. But a lot of Sony ones, they'll flip up above, like they'll go up like this, and you'll see the screen up above. And that's what this one does, but it doesn't flip all the way. It just goes, I don't know, maybe about 45 degrees or so. It just angles just enough so that you can actually hold it and get down low and film if you want, or close it and hold it up high and do whatever you need to do with it. Below the screen, you have your date and time buttons here, along with your LCD on and off. If you don't want to use the LCD, it'll obviously drain the battery a lot faster if you're using the LCD screen. So you can turn that off and then just record looking through the optical viewfinder if you want to. Because in some cases, if you can't see the screen, why have it on? And then along the, well, I guess it's the right side of the camera, you have your tape eject switch, so you can open it up and it kind of opens up from the back. The tape pops open like so, and there's your 8mm cassette tape. Another weird thing is it has a compartment door for the battery itself. Now, the battery is very similar to, if anybody's familiar with the Sony VX2000 or the Sony FX7 or the Sony PD170, you know, those kinds of batteries. It's very similar to that, but the notches on the back are just a little bit different. It doesn't actually lock into place. The little door is actually what keeps it in place. So you can actually just grab the battery and it just slides right out. Like, there's no locking mechanism that holds it in. So you just feed it in from the top, slide it down, and then you gotta close the door to keep the battery from moving up and down. Kind of weird, but it only holds these kinds of batteries. And it came with 2 of them, and they are the Sony MP520 batteries. I'll leave links in the description for batteries and chargers for this as well, if you do get one that doesn't come with all the accessories. And then on the front, there is your zoom option. Now this is where I was saying it's really weird. So it doesn't have a power zoom where you can, you got the rocker zoom and slowly zoom in and slowly zoom out and all that. It's got 2 settings. You got out, or I guess wide, and then you got near, and that's it. So it sits and it flips back and forth, and that's it. So that's the part that really reminds me of a like 90s easy capture picture camera. Super weird. I've never seen anything like that on a camcorder before. But up on top, you do have your power switch, which feels very point and shoot picture feeling. So in the middle is off, and then if you switch it to the left, you got player or playback, and then you can switch it to the right and go to camera, so record mode. And then you obviously have your record button here up on top. Again, feels very point and shoot picture feeling, because you would hold it to your eye, and then you would push that to take a picture, or in this case, you would record with it. And then there's this little cover here on the bottom, and you'll see this little opening here, and you have some other switches down here that says beep. So you can turn the beep on and off. It'll beep when you turn the camera on, and it'll beep once when you start recording, and then when you stop recording, it'll beep twice. And then you can turn your remote commander on or off. There's this other little switch here, so you can start and stop recording in 2 different ways. So if you have it switched to the right, it's the one with the arrow that swoops down and goes back up. So it'll start recording if you just push it and let go and start recording. It'll just sit and record. But then you can switch it to the other one where it just has the arrow pointing down. So you'll hold the record button down, and you'll keep it held down to keep recording. And then when you let go, it'll stop recording. But there's this little cover here, and you can, let's see if we can figure it out. You can slide it off, and then now you can get to the tripod mount. So you can mount it on a tripod and start recording. But there's also these little prongs here that slides. You can see these little connectors here on the bottom. And so that's where these things come in at. I don't think it has anything to do with the charger itself. I'm guessing that there was a power supply that plugged into the side of this and then slid into the front like a battery, and then you could power it that way. But the connector for it is the exact same as a Sony VX1000 or a Sony VX700. Their power supply is the exact same as this one is. And then it came with this little, I don't even know what you even call this. I think what you do is you take the camera. Yeah, you can slide it in and it locks into place, and it's like a docking station. And then I think what you can do is you plug your TV like antenna plug-in into it, and you can, I don't know if you can record like video from like your VCR or your TV or something to the tape here, or if it's just so you can hook it up to your TV and watch your video playback on your TV from back in the day. And I think that's mostly what this is for. That's pretty much it for the physical features on this guy. Yeah, it's just a really weird looking camera. Like I said, it looks like one of those 90s point and shoot picture cameras, and then you take the roll of film and you take it to Walgreens and they develop it for you. And there you go, you got your pictures of your grandkids at Thanksgiving in 1994. It screams my grandma to me. I don't know. My grandma had picture cameras that just looked just like this, but were picture cameras and not video cameras. And I think this is exactly what Sony was gearing this towards, was people who took pictures with those point and shoot style cameras and they just kind of turned it into a video camera. I think so that those people were comfortable and familiar with that kind of a camera. So they just took it all and put it into this little camcorder, and now you could take your point and shoot picture film camera and now you can start recording videos with it. To me, I think it was, geared towards maybe older people or for family events and stuff, because really the only thing that I could see somebody using this camera for is you're gonna go to Disneyland with the kids for a vacation, or you're out camping with the kids back then, and you wanted to just document moments with the family or the grandkids or whatever. And so you'd have this around your neck, or you'd have the little wrist strap on, and you would hurry and just record the grandkids or whatever at Disneyland, and then there you go, you had those little fun memories from back in the 90s. So that's really the only thing I could see this thing being used for, because there's no way that you could use this for some form of professional video if you wanted to. I mean, you can't adjust the exposure on it, you can't adjust the shutter speed, you can't even adjust the white balance on it. Everything is just automatic on it. You know, the only thing that you can change is the date and time, so that way you can, you know, have your date and time on there when you go to watch your family vacation videos back. Going back to the point and shoot picture camera, everything is set up just like one. I mean, you have this optical viewfinder here. The power switch looks just like one. You turn it on and off. I don't know if those picture cameras had a zoom similar to this, but I mean, you have the zoom there. That's just two different settings. You got near and far to make it real easy and quick. And then where the record button is it's right where you would take a picture at with a picture camera. So, I mean, really, that's the only kind of professional prosumer qualities in this thing, is the external mic plug-in and the audio monitoring on it. Other than that, man, this thing is automatic and as basic as it gets. But yeah, I think that'll wrap it up. If this camera piques your interest at all, it will be up on my eBay store. So if you do want to snag this for yourself, you can do that. It'll come with 2 batteries. It'll come with the charger and the weird TV docking station thing, along with the lens hood itself. But yeah, this is a fun little camera to just collect and just, I guess, have in your weird collection of camcorders. And if you have one of these models for yourself or a similar model, I will have batteries, chargers, tapes, video converters, and any other kind of fun accessories that will make these cameras work better for this modern era. So with that being said, let's check out some of these video clips that I got with this little guy, shall we? Figure out how to zoom with it. There we go. Great bonfire. Where's Mom? So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like it. And if you like the content, make sure you subscribe, because we talk about old school retro camcorders pretty much on a weekly basis. And on that note, we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.